Hi everyone, this is Abrar. Welcome to Abrar Knowledge Channel. Today we are talking about storytelling with the data. I picked up a book called the very same name is Storytelling with Data, a data visualization guide for business professional by Wiley. So very nicely portrayed. This book, gives a different guidelines how we should select the color, select the charts, and how we should have the balanced approach and how does our psychology work, how we should make our presentation very appealing, and so many other guidelines. So I read through the entire book and it's really worth reading it. I suggest you all to buy this book and read it by yourself. It is fantastic book. It gives it not only, but it gives like for business professional, but I would say that this can also be useful for the the college goer who wanted to make the presentations and who wanted to make the final year projects and all that. This will be the fantastic book to carry some guidelines and make the best out of it. So even for job goers, of course, it will be directly helpful to all of you all. So this is my one of third video, and it's going to be very interesting. I This book itself is so much appealing to me. I thought, okay, let me just picked up and do this. So first of all, maybe let me go to the next slide. So this is the agenda we're going to talk about today. I'm not going to cover the entire one. Maybe I may be making in one or two or three series of video. In each video, I will be discussing in each element. So first, it says 6 practical tips when it comes to visual management. That is very interesting. The second thing, we'll talk about the lesson in storytelling. What are the things? How we need to coin that word down. How we need to attract the audience attention and so on. So practice, it gives more emphasizes, just like other books, it gives more emphasis on practice. There are some ignorance which we do it, and also give some guidance in how we can overcome those things. And then it talks about the storyboarding. This author also gives believes more on how powerful it is to write and to explain. So we'll talk about that. And choosing effective visual in this one, all 8 different charts. It gives the guidelines like how to make, and what are the ways we commonly make the mistakes and how we can overcome those mistakes. So it talks about there are 8 chart, but commonly used. But I picked up only bar chart, heat map, scatter, and waterfall. Let's get started. So the very first page of this book is very appealing to me. I'm not going to read it out everything. The author Valley is giving the acknowledgement and giving the thanks. So you can see here, like the entire journey, 1980s to 2015, and then it talks about, okay, so his journey and how his father was, and his background, and he wanted to give support to all and all that. This is fantastic way. I This is something amazing to me, how he portrayed the entire thanks with the help of data. So that's something nice. Okay, introduction. In introduction, it's a practical guidance. There are few things which you need to understand. We need to see that they understand the context. It is very imperative, because if different people have a different choice, and a different audience has got a different requirement. We must need to comply to it. And what is very important is, I think in another video I share the story of Coca-Cola, how Coca-Cola failed in Saudi Arabia when it been introduced, just because the font start English start from left to right, and Arabic start from the right to left. So when the Coca-Cola advertisement went there, and they thought that actually the person is very active and he drinks that Coca-Cola and become tired. So the message what he wanted to portray is vice versa. So understanding the context is very important, and once we understand the context, we can just play around the context, and sub bulletin like how we want and what the audience wants. We can just switch around. And then it talks about choose an appropriate visual display. Then it gives a various that we're going to talk about it. It gives a various ideas like how we should make the visuals in very effective way. So eliminate the clutter. What are the things which we need to get rid of it? Focus attention where you want it, and think like a designer and tell a story. This is the introduction as far as the book is concerned. So it says that lesson in storytelling. Stories resonate and stick with us in ways that data alone cannot. So a story is something we deal with several numbers, but what is well registered in our mind is the story, right? So in this chapter, I introduce the concept of storytelling that can be leveraged for communicating with the data, and we considered what we can learn from the master storyteller. And then it says that the story has to have a clear beginning, clear end, and all that it gives, and how it should have the flow, and how we should not something like power of repetitive also it talks about. If you wanted to stress a word, we wanted to, and that word is happen to be a factual word, how we need to stress and have a repetitive. And then it says there are two ways of doing it. One, you have a live presentation. We have a presenter, let's say presenter is you, and you have audiences. And the other side, a written document or email. So you're writing a letter, or you're writing in email, you're composing an email. So you have two different things. So here, if you look at an audience, if you have amount of control you have is high, because you have a time, you can just relaxedly articulate and then rephrase everything. You have every time to make it very worthwhile. So the detail level of detail is needed is low, because you're already making sure that you make things you just compose in a way that the audience read it and understand it and all that. So on the other side, if you look at the live presentation, amount of control you have is high. In both the cases you have high. So how we should need it, actually the level of detail needed is low. In both the cases it's low. It says like, so even if you have, how we can change it back, how we can change it towards low to high. This is what the basically talks about, those two curve, like how we can, if you have a level of details low, and how we can amount of control, how we can ask, how you can have with the audience. And even if you have the high content and you're not having the control with the audience, I think the purpose will get lost. So this is something it nicely portrayed in this one. Let's move forward. So presentation, and it talks more about the importance of presentation. Practice makes men perfect, we often hear that. And it basically gives the same thing. It also gives some tidbit like write out the speaking notes with the important points you wanted to make. Every author, whatever the books I read, and most of my understanding is actually every if you take every author stress so much on writing, because the writing is so pivotal. And writing has a deep connection with the memory, deep connection with the registration and all that. So this author also portrayed the same thing. So write out speaking notes with the important notes that you want to carry. Practice what you want to say loud yourself, take help from the mock presentation. You can do with the friends, you can do with the colleagues, you can record yourself and then play back and all that. So ignorance, the non-supporting data, something, if you have two data, like three different data, and it nicely says in the chart mainly, is nicely portrayed that how we should pin up the important bulletin, so that it talks about. So it says that you might assume that showing only data that backs up your points and ignoring the rest will will make a will make for a stronger case. So actually, like it says that actually you can have the data and everything, but the only thing is how we should portray the data, how we should display the data. That is very very key. And then it talks about the storytelling. In storytelling it says, so anything which you have that actually even in the office, if you have any issues, or you wanted to you have a in the project, college project, and you wanted to get a different idea, different scheming, everything, what you can do is you can keep writing down. You can just allow like you can have either round table or unround table or robin method, or everything you can use a follow to have a brainstorming and collect the ideas. That collecting the ideas, the best effective ways is to write up. So every people can come forward and write it, to collect the different ideas and different thought process. Even if you happen to be a presenter, and you can make use of the writing one, because actually sometimes the way you write, actually people start follow, and they just it goes and get register well in mind. So this is choosing the effective visual. Simple. It says like, it talks about simple text. If you wanted to only display the number, how what font you should use it, how we should make it. Only that number is appeasing. For example, like 91 percentage. Let's say college. College students got graduated, something in that. So that is only that word we can make it very bold and all that. And if it is table, get rid of all the dark bold table and all that, just have very very mild. And this is for heat map. A heat map should also communicate that actually what where you want the audience to be focused. Scatter plot, again you can have the same thing. Get rid of the grid, everything, have it like simple. It will be very appeasing. So line chart and slope graph. In slope graph you will see that, find for example, if you have four slope graph and you wanted to emphasize only one part, which is you want your management, you want your colleague, you want your professor to focus, only that can be bold, the rest can be unbold. And then vertical one, it also gives like vertical, whether all the chart should be stacked or all the chart should be bold or light color, what color we should use it, we'll talk about that. And then waterfalls is my very favorite chart, I will talk about that. Square area is also very nice, and we will talk about that also as well. So basically this is the overview of all charts. Take an example of this one. So if you look at, like, if you display the number, the one important number, if you wanted to pin up, you can do this way. 20% of children had traditional stay at home mom. So according to the survey and all that. So in this case, 20 percentage, everyone will remember only that. If you try to make that 20 percentage is a normal font and all that, people tend to miss that detail, right? So this is good to have. Let's say this is heavy borders should be avoided, and light borders also should be avoided. We can have very very less and very very minimal border as such, for only for these headings it can be border, I mean it can have a line. There is need not to have any lines and all that. It is simple and very effective. Same goes for here. Actually, if you wanted to display the number, you can have two different things. If you have a more percentage and you have more data, attribute data. So I think the best way is to use the heat map. So you can see the difference. Like, it is little clumsy. Many numbers are there. People might not remember. So in such cases, you can just highlight the one which you wanted to focus, like 58 percentage or anything beyond 50 percentage. You can just do a formatting. You can do and you can display the number what you want to achieve. So even in this case also, if you've been talking about the scatter plot, in even a scatter plot you can give a focus. Okay, so this is the upper limit we wanted to focus, and this is make it unbold and all that. So people will say, okay, many dots are there. Okay, the cost per mile by miles driven. So this is high percentage, and this is the cost and all that. So they might able to relate and follow the things very very easily. And then it gives like if it is single series, two series, multiple series, the best thing is if you use all four in the same color, same fonts, and on top of it, if you try to have this grid, like X grid, I mean, if you add like X bar and this thing, it might confuse. The best thing is the only thing which you wanted to display, let's say A, so you only that you can make it bold, that and the color. The rest you can just make it like normal. So that something like, everyone can take the message from it and have a go. Even in these two, only one you want to focus, you can do that. And this is something like, actually, even if you want, you don't need to give that, data label for everything. You can just give a data label at the end, so it is understood. Okay, so 21, and it is here like 20 and all that. So this is also, you can do that. So this is, I really like it. For example, you have many percentage, just like here, where you have a multiple percentage, you will not able to follow what are the details within a short period of time. You will not be able to follow what is going on with the data. So if you look at here, so career development, that is reduced like 49 percentage to 33%. That is the key focus for the management to focus upon. So the rest other, if you look at like peer is 85 percentage to 96, that is good. We are improving it. So, and the thing which you want, the I know, and nicely put it, like this survey is taken for 2014 to 2015. The year of data, simple and but very very effective. So we can use that. So you want these things to focus on. You can just have that alone as one color, and make sure that the color choice also the uniform. Do not use more than two color. That's what the other recommendation. So here, too thin, too thick, and just right. It should not be too thin bar line. It should not be too thick, and it should be just right. Yeah, we can just follow the middle one. So example continues, and it says like, even if it is the same example how we talked about this one, if you have multiple charts, bar charts, so you can make sure that the only data where you wanted to pin up and bring focus, only that you can make it the color. The other, you can just have it normal color or very very light color. So then you have this is also one of my favorite. Let's say strongly agree, disagree, neutral, and agree, and strongly agree. So let's say you wanted to focus on these things, agree and strongly agree. So only those things you can just make it bold. No, you wanted to do an analysis of how many customer or supplier have given strongly disagree or disagree. So then you can make this as a bold, and the rest you can make it unbold, and the color also you can choose accordingly. So this is the bottom line in all the chart is, whenever you wanted, whatever the information you wanted to pin up, and you want the audience to be focused, the only thing that need to be bold, the rest can be unbold. So even if you say the comparison is easy, comparison is very hard, because too many colors, too many things, and you can make it little bigger. So waterfall chart also is, well, for example, you have a head count, beginning head count in 2014, you had 100, and then you had 30 is higher, and then you have a redistribution. Okay, from there, this is they went for transfer and this thing. And if you have a further data, classification of data from the main group to subgroup, the best way is to use the waterfalls. For example, the waterfalls should have a start date and end date. So this is the let's say start data, this is the starting, and this is the existing data, the ending head count, and how that 18 head count travel together. So that you will have here. So 38, and then 12 minus, and say 10 minus head count. So this also is commonly used. That is called square area graph. So whatever the information you wanted to have fill, let's say you have a distribution, you can just have a fill it up. So to be avoided, and this is very interesting. For example, if let's say you have, so this author tells that actually we should not use the donut chart, we should not use pie chart. Why? Because actually, like, it is very difficult to, for example, it looks to me that it is a 50-50 percentage, but actually this is 34 and 31. Wherever you have a very narrow differences, is better that we can take it up either horizontal or vertical bar, and we can have a plotted. So this is alternative way. So this can be sometimes misleading. So let's say this area looks to be more or less same, because of course there are same like 34 and 31, but you will not be able to significantly make the difference. In such cases, you can make it like simple 34 percentage. You see here there is no grid and all that, not heavily placed on this one. You can just have it inside this one, all the value inside it, and then you can have it, total, how much total and all that. So thereby it is understood that some of the things is a little anonymous, and it is understood that, and it's implied, I think implied is the right word, implied, and it is no need to communicate that it, okay, it is percentage, you're talking about percentage, these are all percentage, and you know, no need to have that scaling and all that. Yeah. So alternative, and this is one alternative. This is, let's say you have a, so too much crowded, the x-axis, the y-axis and all that. So simply you can put it this way, and you can have that label, and again, you can, whatever the data you wanted to emphasize, you can just pull up vertically or horizontally based on the data, and so on. So this is also a typical one last thing. It says, like, if you want to have a graph like this, let's say a trend line, if you wanted to have like this, so it is neat but very very clumsy. You have all these month, and it is going like vertical directions, and then you have all of these things, with a decimal value, but apparently there is no decimal being used. And here you have two different bold letter and all that, and the dot looks to be very heavy and very bold. So here, if you look at it very neatly, it portray, it says received and processed. So all of these things you can just just pin up here directly. So and then it talks more about our brain, how does our work, and how we should take the data, how we should display the data in order to pull the attention efficiently and effectively. So we'll cover in part 2. Let me summarize. We talked about 6 practical tips. One of the practical tips we talked about is how we need to have a practice, and then we talked about the ignorance. What are the things, whatever the things you want, for example, let's say you have 3 chart line, and all 3 chart, I mean 3 chart lines, you don't need to be bold and have that, have the only thing which you need to be focus more. And then we talked about lesson in storytelling, because the number is difficult to remember, but if you relate to this in a story form and visual form, it will be very catchy and very useful. And practice is the core of all success, and the core and essence of all success. Ignorance, that we tend to miss out, and this is something which we need to take care. And storyboarding, and have a rating of, writing, and choosing effective visual, we talked about it, how we should, whatever the information we wanted to emphasize, you want audience to be paid more attention, only that can be bold, rest can be unbold. You don't need to use the extra data labels and all that, and some of the things you can directly use without data labels and all that. Make sure that it is neat, and it is very appeasing. So that's it from my side today, and I hope that you like this video. This is my favorite subject, and I'm sure that I will be making the another follow-up video on this one. So till then, take very good care. If you wanted any support, please do reach out to me in LinkedIn, or this is my channel. Please like Abrar Knowledge channel. Have a nice day ahead. So please do comment if you have any specific questions or scenario which you wanted to share with us. Please do that so that we can pick it up. So thank you so much. Have a nice day ahead.